If you've spent any time at all scaling successful software projects into, these big organizational programs, you've probably hit the wall.
Oh, absolutely.
You hear this buzzword, scaling agile, but the reality is it's just so much harder than adding more people or just duplicating what worked before.
Right. If you try to copy what worked for 2 teams across, say, 20 interdependent teams, the one thing you are guaranteed to get is just organizational bloat.
And crippling delays.
And delays, yes.
So the mission for our deep dive today is to figure out how we get past that bloat. We're looking into Agile and Lean program management.
Which is really a specific framework for coordinating that complex strategic work, all those interdependent projects under one single objective.
And I think here's the core insight right up front. Scaling Agile isn't about copying team practices. It's about scaling collaborative practices and strategic alignment.
Exactly. The framework we're exploring today, it combines two really powerful forces. You've got Agile, which is all about the ability to change by delivering working features.
And then Lean.
And then Lean, which is about seeing the whole process, rigorously reducing your work in progress, your WIP, and just maximizing throughput.
So we're synthesizing speed and efficiency to manage that enterprise-level complexity.
That's the goal. When you move into the program space, you're fundamentally shifting from tactical execution to a strategic coordination.
So a program isn't just a big project.
Not at all. A program is explicitly a strategic collection of several related projects, and they're all tied to one coherent business objective. It's that connective tissue.
And to manage that, you have to understand the complexity you're dealing with.
You do. And a really useful tool for this is the Sinefin framework. It's a sense-making framework that helps guide your decision-making.
Okay.
It shows us that programs are, at a minimum, inherently complicated.
So a program is never in that simple domain where everyone knows the answer. It starts at least in the complicated context.
Exactly. Complicated means we have known unknowns. We know there's a problem, but we need specialized experts to analyze it and find a solution.
Like calling in an architect for a tricky integration.
Perfect example. They solve it. But here's the vital distinction, and this is what kills most large programs. If your teams are distributed, if people are multitasking,
Which they always are.
which they always are, right?
Yeah.
Or if the tech stack is brand new, you've likely moved out of complicated and into the complex context.
And what defines the complex domain?
That's where you hit the unknown unknowns. The relationship between cause and effect is, well, it's only clear in retrospect. You can't predict the outcome.
So a detailed 18-month roadmap is basically useless.
It's guaranteed to fail because your assumptions are wrong the minute you start. The only way forward in complexity is to run controlled experiments or probes to discover those unknowns.
And hopefully pull the program back toward the complicated domain.
That's the goal. Pull it back to where problems are solvable. And what's fascinating is that because a program is emergent, it evolves as you learn. You just cannot plan everything at the start. You have to manage by principles like amplify learning, not by rigid practices.
Okay, let's unpack this adaptive mandate. If the path is complex and emergent, that has to translate into how the organization is physically structured, right?
Yeah, it has to.
Because big organizations just love creating massive layered hierarchies. So how do you organize for this without creating all that bureaucracy?
Since we accept the program as emergent, the organization has to be just as fluid. So you typically need 2 main teams that are dedicated to coordinating the program.
Separate from the feature teams doing the work.
Yes, separate. First is the core team.
Mm-hmm.
This is your strategic engine. They provide the business leadership, they set the vision, and they are responsible for defining the business value.
So that's sales, marketing, legal.
All of them.
Yeah.
Highly cross-functional. Then second, you have the software program team. Their job is to solve the cross-functional technical problems, integration risks, roadblocks, all of that.
I can immediately see the risk of having too many people on that core team. If you need to pivot based on those probes, you need rapid decisions.
Precisely. And a really critical piece of advice from the sources is to really try, to keep your core team to 10 people or fewer.
10 or fewer. Why that number?
It's not arbitrary. It's about communication complexity. Every person you add just geometrically increases the communication paths and slows everything down.
Right. So a core team of 20 people just guarantees decision-making will stall.
You're guaranteeing it. And central to all this is the program product owner, the PPO. This person shepherds the business value of the whole roadmap.
And what about the individual product owners on the feature teams? That sounds like a tough gig.
It is. They have a dual mandate. They must understand the customer base and the product technology. If you miss one, you're sunk.
You either build the wrong thing or you prioritize impossible things.
Exactly. And because of that, they often work together as a kind of product value team to rank features and manage all those dependencies between the delivery teams.
Okay. And this all gets formalized somewhere.
It does. All of this strategic alignment is laid out in the program charter. This document sets the strategy, it defines what done means for the whole program, and it includes the vision and, most importantly, the vital few release criteria.
That chartering effort sounds like the first major probe into the complex domain. It forces the whole core team to surface risks right at the very start.
That's a great way to put it. It really
That
is.
makes perfect sense. So once you have the strategy and the teams, the focus has to shift to execution, to planning. We're moving away from that huge upfront planning phase.
Yes. The mandate here is continuous planning. You should think of planning like you think of continuous integration.
You do it all the time, so it gets easier and faster.
And it's based on reality, not a forecast you made 6 months ago. The key tool here is the Agile roadmap.
And let's be clear, this is a high-level wish list. It is not a promise to deliver on a specific date.
Critically, yes. It explains the strategic context, it has your releases, your major themes, and it must be updated often. Monthly, maybe, to reflect what's actually been delivered.
So the emphasis is on small, continuous deliverables to keep that feedback loop really tight. How small are we talking?
We're talking about optimizing for flow. The program has to commit to releasing something internally at least once a month.
At least.
This builds cadence, it gets you feedback, and it builds trust. And to do that, teams have to define very small feature sets. We all know MVPs, minimum viable products,
Right.
but for complex programs, you often need something even smaller. The minimal indispensable feature set, or MIFs.
MIFs. That sounds powerful. How is that functionally different from an MVP?
Well, an MVP is often the smallest thing you can ship externally to learn about the market. A MIFS is the smallest, highest value chunk that, if you delay it, causes the most devastating economic impact.
Oh, okay.
It's often a third or even a fifth the size of a normal MVP. You're focused on functional indispensability. Small batch size is beautiful for programs.
So when that product value team has hundreds of these little features flowing in, how do they prioritize? It can't just be most important first. It has to be an economic decision.
It absolutely must be an economic decision. The tendency is to pick what seems politically important, but that's a trap. You have to use quantitative methods.
Okay.
And the most common one is weighted shortest job first, or WSJF.
Let's clarify WSJF. It sounds technical, but it's actually a brilliant way to stay focused.
It is. WSJF is a ratio. It's the cost of delay divided by the job duration, or size.
Okay, break down cost of delay for us.
It forces you to look at a few key things. First, time criticality. How fast do we lose value if we delay? Second, risk reduction. Does this unlock future work or protect us from risk? And third, just the pure user or business value.
So you add up those three value components.
That's the weighted part, yes.
Yeah.
And then you divide that sum by the estimated size of the work. That's the shortest job first part.
And this ensures that small jobs with high value jump the queue.
It delivers economic benefit fast, which funds future work. If you ignore this, you risk incurring a massive cost of delay on all those smaller valuable items.
And that cost of delay, that's the real teeth here. It's not some abstract idea. It's a measurable financial loss.
It's the cost. It's lost revenue. It's fines you might incur by delaying a release. It's a real cost that highlights the economic impact of every single ranking decision you make.
And finally, you have to visualize all this work, right? Especially to limit that WIP you keep mentioning.
Yes, rigorous visualization. We use Kanban boards at the program level. A core team Kanban, a software team Kanban. You have to visualize the workflow and critically limit the work in progress on the program team itself.
So if a requirement is stuck with legal for 2 weeks,
That is program level WIP. If that's not visible and limited, the program team itself becomes the bottleneck.
here's where it gets really interesting because all of this structure and methodology, it requires a huge cultural shift. It requires servant leadership.
It does.
So if a program manager isn't driving the plan, what are they doing? It sounds like they're just relinquishing control.
They are relinquishing command and control, but they are absolutely retaining stewardship. The program manager's role shifts from driving the people to serving the program.
Creating an environment where people can thrive.
Exactly. An environment of autonomy and collaboration, which is what you need to handle that complex domain we talked about. Their job is to remove systemic impediments.
But in the business world, servant leader sometimes gets misinterpreted. People think it means being a pushover, being afraid to make the tough calls.
That is a dangerous, dangerous myth. Being a servant leader does not mean being a pushover.
Right.
Servant leaders have to fiercely protect the program's ability to deliver value. And that means they have to make the hard decisions,
Yeah.
including removing people who won't commit or who are actively blocking the flow. You protect the program's integrity.
This must shift the whole dynamic of status updates and feedback. If you're leading by serving, how do you get honest information?
You have to proactively welcome bad news. You have to. You reframe problems not as failures, but as opportunities to learn and improve.
Because if leadership reacts badly to bad news.
The bad news just disappears. It goes underground, and that's where the real risk is.
What about metrics? How do you measure performance?
Okay, here we have a very strict rule, and we can't stress this enough. Never use team-based measurements, like comparing team velocity at the program level.
Why is comparing team velocity so toxic?
Because velocity is a diagnostic tool that is personal and unique to one specific team. Their history, their definition of done, it's all different.
So trying to compare Team A's velocity to Team B's is completely meaningless.
Worse than meaningless, it's damaging. It destroys trust, and it encourages teams to game the system.
So what do you measure instead?
You measure program deliverables. The primary measure of progress is always working product. Always.
What for the quantitative metrics?
You track things that measure throughput. Completed features versus remaining features. Time to a releasable deliverable. Release frequency. Things that are understandable to your sponsors.
Let's hit 3 quick diagnosis points. What are the most common thorny issues that kill program flow?
First one I'd say is featureitis.
Featureitis.
This is when product owners only rank new features, they ignore technical debt, refactoring, defects, and the program just grinds to a halt. The solution is simple discipline. You discuss the business value of every item in the backlog, including fixes.
Second.
Multitasking. People working on other projects will guarantee delays for your program. It creates high WIP bottlenecks. It has to be made transparent and, honestly, disallowed if you're serious about your targets.
And the third one?
Hardening sprints. This is a tremendous risk. It's a sign of incomplete work and deferred technical debt all the way through the cycle.
Because it means teams aren't really getting to done.
They aren't. They're concentrating all the risk right before the release. Teams have to learn to get features to done, including all the testing, in 1 or 2 days.
Finally, let's talk architecture. Traditionally, the architect hands down a big design up front, the blueprint. How does that work here?
It doesn't. They can't dictate. Big design up front fails in complexity. The program architect's job is instead to shepherd the business value of the evolving architecture.
So they're balancing short-term delivery with long-term system health.
Exactly. And they have to write code. They lead by doing, working with the teams to evolve the architecture, guiding it rather than dictating it.
So what does this all mean?
Well, Agile and Lean program management it's a comprehensive approach. It's about accepting complexity and then moving those problems into the complicated domain through clear lean structures.
Like the core team and the software program team.
Right. And using small batch sizes like MIFs, getting continuous feedback through those monthly internal releases, and really embracing a culture of servant leadership.
A culture that fiercely protects the program's flow.
The ultimate goal is to shift the culture away from one that's obsessed with detailed prediction, which is impossible, toward a culture that is obsessed with value and flow.
Which leaves us with a provocative thought for you to mull over. The ultimate philosophical shift here is moving leadership away from constantly asking, when will it be done and how much will it cost?
A question seeking an impossible prediction.
Right. To instead asking sponsors and stakeholders, what is of most value to you now, and how much are you willing to invest to gain that value and increase our resilience?
Because by delivering working software frequently and transparently, you build the kind of trust that, well, that ultimately makes those old, rigid estimates unnecessary. It's all about focusing on resilience and flow, not chasing an impossible prediction.